right?
Yeah. So I am John. Yeah, I portrayed my mom on season 4 of The Circle. For those of you that don't know what the show really is, it's like a social media game. So basically, what I do is go in as either myself or a catfish. I was a catfish, and your job is to become the most popular player of the game. I ended up choosing to be my mom. Very New Jersey move of me, just very tight with my family, and that was how that ended up becoming a thing. But yeah, that's the backup. That's the story.
And you stayed until like 5th episode. Spoiler alert, if people didn't watch season 4, you were in it pretty long. So you were there long enough that you can give us an inside scoop and like the full behind the scenes.
Yeah, I could tell you a lot of the everything. Like I went through pretty much every experience you're going to have filming that show without like getting all the way to the end.
I can't wait to get into that. Before we do, I wanted to start off with like a couple rapid fire questions. Being that you were born and raised on the East Coast and I'm there now, I just have a couple of things. I want to hear your opinion, like this or that.
Let's do it.
Okay. So for breakfast, are you picking a roll or a bagel?
Oh, a bagel. 100 times out of 100.
And do you call it?
I was going to say, an everything bagel is a transcendent experience, whether I call them therapy bagels. Like if you're going to have like a post-hang, like you're hungover, you need a bagel. If you just need a quick breakfast, you need a bagel. And everything bagel always gets the job done.
I couldn't agree more. And same with the seasoning. Like I know that was kind of a phase where everyone loved the Trader Joe's everything bagel seasoning, but it's still a staple in my house.
Oh yeah, I love it. I use it all the time.
So do you call it Taylor ham or pork roll?
Taylor ham. I'm a North Jersey guy. Always Taylor ham. Pork roll is a South Jersey thing. I will never argue that it's one or the other because I know I'm never going to convince anybody of the opposite. But the only thing that matters is like it's New Jersey people, so we have it, and a lot of places everywhere else pretty much don't. So at least we get to experience the greatest breakfast meat of all time.
That's so solid. I love that claim. Are you a Starbucks or a Dunkin' kind of guy?
Ooh, Dunkin', usually Starbucks only when peppermint mocha season is around.
Oh, I like that. So that's your go-to, like that's your latte.
Yeah, it's my favorite. Like I usually drink black coffee and I just like Dunkin's black coffee, but like if I have to go somewhere else, like I go for a latte. It's a Starbucks peppermint mocha in the winter.
I can agree with that because I feel like Dunkin's where you go for straight coffee and Starbucks is where you go if you want like a sugary latte. So right there with you.
Yeah, more done up coffee. Like a Dunkin' is just like you get a plain coffee and an old fashioned donut. And like that's like my life. I'm good.
Same. And I like the donut holes too. Like I'll never turn down a munchkin.
Yeah, munchkins are fantastic. Like they bring me back to like being a child. Like I love munchkins.
What do you get? Like chocolate munchkin or do you get the filled?
The chocolate glazed. Just plain chocolate glazed munchkin is like the best, bar none munchkin. Like if you think anything else is the best munchkin, like you're out of your mind. That's the best one.
I completely agree. Couldn't agree more. So lastly, tournament or tournament? How do you say the word?
Oh, how do I say it? Tournament? I think tournament is what I say.
I think so. Yeah. Every person from Jersey I've ever met, they always pronounce like the O-U-R, like so much so that when I first got here, I'm from Ohio and I was like, are we saying it wrong? Because we just say tournament. So that's my last question.
I didn't even like realize that was a thing. So now it's been brought to my attention. I'm going to be thinking about it every time I say it, ever. Like with the basketball, like the college basketball tournament, March Madness is coming up. I just did it again. Like I'm going to be like thinking about every time I say tournament in that.
So let's get into the show. I want to know if you watched any prior seasons before you actually got casted for The Circle.
Oh, yeah. I was like a fan of the show before I went on the show. I loved like season 1, season 2. So I watched seasons 1 and 2 all the way through. Season 3 came out. I want to say it was like right around the time we went to film the show. So I've never watched season 3, but I've watched season 4 and season 5. So it was like just sort of it worked out, but it was so funny that like that was the one I missed. But yeah, I've watched I think every episode of the show that's ever existed besides season 3.
Did having that experience watching the show, being a fan, is that what prompted you to want to be a catfish and know that if you went in as yourself, like the marketing role, that people would be sus?
Yeah. Well, what happened with me was that when I was auditioning, I auditioned to be myself, and I was pretty much like gearing up to go to the show being myself, and having gone and like seen as many episodes of the show that I had seen, like my strategy was just to be me. And I was doing really well through the casting process. And then they kind of just threw it out on the table and were like, if you're going to be on the show, we actually need you to be a catfish. So that's how like becoming my mom like became a thing, because they were like, oh, like actually you can't play yourself. Like we need you to be a catfish. And I was like, oh, I'll be my mom. Like I just sort of said it like that. Didn't think anything of it, but they were just like, yeah, okay, we like that. Let's roll with that. And it had nothing to do with like my strategy from watching the show. Like my strategy was always the same. And I kind of ended up using the exact same strategy, even though I was playing somebody else, was just like, be honest was essentially my thing. And yeah, it had nothing to do with any of the prior seasons, because if it did, I would have probably gone on as myself and just like done exactly what you would have expected me to do, being me, like not having to be somebody else.
That's so interesting to hear, because I can tell you right now, I've like a lot of questions have gone through my mind, but never once has it occurred to me that like production was the one saying, yeah, be yourself, or yeah, you should be a catfish. So that's like kind of like my mind is blown at that.
Yeah, see, like the thing is, I don't know if that was everybody's experience from being a catfish. Like, I'm sure that there were people that came on pitching to be a catfish. I just wasn't one of those people. I think they just liked me, and they were like, "We'll get him on the show, but we don't know if it's going to be, as a catfish or as a like a regular just playing yourself type of situation." And they didn't prepare me for that whatsoever. Like, they were just like, keep auditioning you as you're playing yourself. And like they threw that monkey wrench in about like 2 or 3 auditions in out of like a 6 or 7 audition process. So like when I got to like that 3rd or 4th audition, I knew I was playing my mom, but up until then I thought I was playing myself.
It's also surprising to hear that it's such a long audition process. I would literally picture them watching your video, being like, yes, let's go with John, them bringing you in, and then that's it. Like I had no idea that you have to go through so many steps.
Well, I think that comes from the fact that like it's not like the typical reality show where like you're in a house or you're in a setting with like a bunch of people. You're in a room by yourself like the whole time. And the only interaction you have is over like the chats. So they're basically just making sure that you're entertaining on your own. So like the video is helpful because like that gets you through the first step. Then it's like the rest of the audition process is just making sure like, like you're not a crazy person. Like you have to go through like a pretty extensive like psychology test because you're like, they have to make sure you're capable of being in a room by yourself for that amount of time. They want to make sure that you're in general healthy, like just physically healthy, because like, it's kind of a unique situation. Like getting any medical attention while you're there isn't like immediate, but like they have a great wellness team and a great like just the people involved in making sure that the players are good are fantastic. Like so wonderful, very professional, but it's just like you're in seclusion. So it's not like you could get a doctor at the drop of a hat. And then like the last thing is just like I think people throughout the audition process are easily exposed. Like you could take 80 takes to make a really good audition tape. And like that could affect everything. For me, like my audition tape was just like a one shot, like one continuous shot of me talking, because I was like, this is the only way. I'm not going to like edit a full-fledged video, make it an over the top thing. I want to just show who I am. And then like when they started like auditioning you, a lot of it's like a job interview and they just want to make sure you're a normal person for the most part. And then can you like take it to the next level and play the game and be entertaining? So like that last audition before you get asked to do the show, like you pretend to play the game. So like they put like a Prezi sort of thing in front of you and you have to like, send messages and be like circle message, like do the whole thing. And then and that's just like 6 of the producers of the show watch you do that. And then that's how they pick. That's how you end up being on the show.
Oh my God. That's so tea. I literally would never have pictured that it's all of that steps. I wouldn't have pictured that they have such a, like such a good screening process, but it makes sense now that you're saying it. Like you're literally alone. So you have to be like a one-man show essentially to collaborate with everyone else.
Yeah, and like the thing is when you're there, you feel like you're the star of your own movie because like you're in a room with like 12 cameras and nobody else is there. And you don't know what's going on in anybody else's room. You just know what's going on in your room. So when like it's happening in real time, you think everything is going to make it into this show. Like you think everything is going to make it in. I would say like maybe 1/12 of like the time that I spent in the show is actually on camera, and I like can confirm that everybody felt the same way when they watched it back because there's just so much time in those rooms. Like you wake up early and you go to bed late. You don't know what time it is because they don't allow clocks or anything in the room. You don't know what day it is. Like they won't tell you, like unless you keep like tallies, like it's, you know, in your notebook or something. But you're just like you become like so enthralled in like what the game is that you start to realize like they're making a TV show. And there was like a time when I was filming that one, like my producer, you have two producers during the course of the day. There's a daytime and a nighttime producer. And they're the ones like being like, hey, something might come up on the screen. And then an alert happens like, hey, can we get you to do this? So it looks like you're doing this for some B-roll and things like that. And I remember like one day, my daytime producer, who his name is Joe Bass, great dude. My nighttime producer was Harry. They're both amazing. But Joe in the morning was saying that like, you know, one thing that you have to do when you're on this show, he's like, you just have to be doing something. Cause like if you're not doing anything, like even if you're just making a cup of tea, like there's a 40% chance like that shot of you making tea ends up being B-roll. Like if you're just sitting in your apartment doing shit, like doing literally nothing, like you're not going to be in the episode. And they're very mindful of that. They're like their job as producers is good television. Like they care about you, like they want you to be in good well-being, but they're also like, I kind of need you to do some stuff because like you're like, you know, like you're the lion in the cage right now at the zoo. Like either you're going to get up, walk around, and we're going to be like, this is great, or you're going to sit there and nap and we're going to move on and try to see something else.
That brings me to a couple of questions that I had for later on as you're saying that. So first of all, everybody wants to know, are producers able to come in that apartment with you, or do you have an earpiece? Like what's the communication method going on?
Yeah, that it's called your voice of God is what they call it, the VOG. So there's just a speaker that pumps in your producer's audio to your apartment, like while you're in it. So they're on a microphone, and your microphone that's around your neck you wear 24/7 unless you're taking a shower or you're going to sleep. So like when that microphone is not only the recorded audio for the actual show, but like it's the stuff, it's like how the producer can hear you as well. Because they don't record like ambient audio. And then they can come into the room. Like your direct producers won't. Like my Joe, Harry, those guys won't come into the room because they don't want to build like that relationship right off the bat. Then like after a while of being there, you get like these like air breaks where you can get fresh air. And then you can you'll meet like floor producers and like showrunners and, you know, like the Joe and Harry I ended up meeting then. Actually, Joe I didn't meet until the finale. That's not true. Harry I met during a fresh air period. And like, it's just weird because like this person's been a voice and you like picture what they might look like and you've no idea. And like, I remember when I met Joe, my other producer at the finale, he was like 6'4", and I was like, oh my God, you are massive. I didn't even like, you don't even put two and two together. And like they have like two associate producers there with them whose their job is to like type while you're talking to the circle. Cause like they write your messages in real time, and they were both super nice. Lauren and Emma, I think. And like, I, again, had a picture of what they could have looked like just based on their voice. Nothing like it. Like, you just don't see people for a really long time.
So, you know, that brings me to my next question. Like, actually, hold on. Let me take a break because that was a lot. I'm just going to look at my notes really quick because I'm absorbing all of that. That brings me to a lot of questions. Like, so you guys got fresh air breaks, which I was wondering. Where is it? Is it just on your balcony, or is it like on the roof? Like, where do you go?
Yeah, we can't access the balcony. So like that are adjacent to our rooms. So there are two like fresh air spaces on each floor, which is just like another apartment that's empty and like you can go out on that balcony and just like stand there for like 5 minutes. And then the upstairs is a fresh air space, like the hot tub and everything. But like I never went into the hot tub. I only used the upstairs as like fresh air. Like sometimes you get to talk to like the welfare team, like the wellness team, welfare team, whatever you might call it. Like they'll do like the 6 of them just sitting upstairs with you. But yeah, those are like the 2 possibilities. There's not really much else.
So it's interesting that they don't show that because, you know, in the show, like it really makes it seem like you guys are so stuck in the apartment. And when you talked about the fact that you can never know really what time it is or what day, unless you're literally like Castaway keeping tallies in your notebook, at least they give you guys that, because I feel like your mental health could like deteriorate without going outside at all.
Yeah, their first priority for sure, like especially from the welfare perspective, is your mental health. Like they are very on top of it. Like there's a show psychologist, her name is Marcy. She's there every day. Like she'll come in, like if you're having a tough day, she will come in and talk to you. Like they're like that is always on the table. Like they tell you like use us as resources. Like just because you're filming this doesn't mean you can't like say, hey, I need to go. I need to talk to somebody. I need to do this. I need to do that. But I think the reason why like they don't show a lot of that stuff is just because like the audience doesn't want to be taken out of what the false reality of the show is. Like if you saw us getting to take a break from the game, like it's just not good television. Like you want to see us like being in the game at all times. Like that's the part that's like it's a double-edged sword, obviously, because like you get really wrapped up in what's going on. For me, like I never had any like a mental health breakdown. I never like got to my wit's end. The only thing I started to struggle with was like they're only allowed to call me Carol like over the speaker and stuff. Like I'm not John while I'm there because like just on the off chance one of the other producers is talking while the other producer is talking and somebody in a room hears you say like John and like they're like there's no John on this show, so like who is John? Like they could start like they can only call me Carol. So like for like 2 weeks of my life people were just calling me Carol. And like that's like it's fine. Like it's not like I wasn't like upset by it. It's just like mentally, like you just for 2 weeks in my life for 2 weeks forever, people just didn't even call me my name. Like for
that's
2 weeks,
so
your name
odd.
just changes. So like it like that's like a mental like that's definitely a mental block. But I never had that situation where I was like I feel lonely. I'm tired. I'm done with this. Like I loved it. Like it when you think about the perspective of like the whole situation was a month. And it's pretty much like led to like the craziest time of my life that like I wouldn't trade for anything. Like the month was worth it. Like there's never been a time like obviously I didn't win. Like spoiler alert if nobody has seen it, like you already mentioned, I only make it to episode 5 or whatever. Actually I think I made it to like episode 8. I forget. I definitely
you did, and if you did, I'm so sorry about that because that's like a big difference.
That's okay. I made it like I was like in the second to last elimination, but that's like all I can remember. But what I was gonna say was, when you're there that long and you're kind of like trying to keep yourself about it. When I left to do the show, I had a collective following of like I don't know, 3,000 people across Instagram and TikTok. And now I have like 175,000 followers across 2 platforms is like insane. Like not something I'd ever thought I'd get to say or do, or like I never thought that was going to be a part of my life. So I did like a month in England, 2 weeks of it filming just to like for what's been the betterment of the rest of my life and my career. And you know, like people are always like, oh, but you didn't win. So like, was it even worth it? Like for the money? And it's like, no, but like, you know, when you're going there, obviously I want to go and win. I didn't go there thinking like, I want to get out early. Like you want to win, but you're one of 10 people that are going to enter that game. That's you're 1 in 10 chance, a 10% chance that you're going to win 150 grand. So you might as well look at it as a valuable life experience. And then if you win the money, like Frank did, like that's just the cherry on top. Like, you know what I mean? And I think I can confidently say we are a very tight-knit season, and we've gotten made fun of by other cast members a lot for being like, we're a family, but we are really that close, like amongst our season forecast. I don't know if it's because like other casts expected like different things of their lives or something, but like all of us had a really good head on our shoulders about that stuff.
What do you think about, first of all, it's nice hearing that. And you can tell watching your season, by the way, like your season had so many people that were genuinely connecting with each other. And that was a
Yeah.
really nice element of the show.
Oh, totally.
I did see that Rachel commented on one of your TikToks, and I wanted to ask you because, I mean, kind of what the fuck? She was like that her experience was like a little bit more negative. Like she said that, producers.
This is Rachel from my season, right? Not Rachel Ward from season 3. Because both of them had awful experiences. But Rachel from my season, you're probably
curly
right.
hair.
Yes, Rachel from my season.
Beautiful. Okay, perfect. Yes, that's who I'm referring to. So she was made to cry and told like she's not going to be in it unless she talks more. Like what do you know about that? And like how is there such a vast difference in experiences?
Yeah, a fantastic question. I don't really know. I can't speak specifically to Rachel's experience in her room because just like you don't want to talk about something you're not entirely sure of what went down there. Like I just know a little bit about like after the fact, like as she has mentioned things to us and like joked about it to us, like it wasn't awesome, was what she said. And like I wouldn't know what caused that. It could be a mix of things. Like I think Rachel's one of the most entertaining, funny, and lovely people I've ever met. So
Absolutely.
I would be like hard pressed to think that it's because of like her not wanting to do things. Like that would shock me just because like Rachel is so awesome. Like she's so comfortable in front of a camera. Like she's so comfortable, like just being herself, which is like half the battle of going on that show is like just being comfortable in your own skin because you're going to be watched the whole time. Like, and I don't want to speculate that it was all the producers' faults either, but like, I don't know who produces the show every year. I don't know. Like, I know my producers, Harry and Joe, have been producing the show since season 1. So they were fantastic. Like, they had told me that. Like they produced for Shuby in season 1, like the two of them. And like, that was helpful for me because I think they knew when I was like, I'm not going to do something. Like, they're like, okay, like, you don't have to. Whereas maybe if there was a younger producer, somebody who might have been new to the show and Rachel wasn't comfortable doing something, you need to be positive in that as a producer in that scenario. Like I remember I had like the day I get eliminated, I had a rough one because I woke up that day knowing that if there was an elimination, I was probably going to go home. Like because there were just so many feathers ruffled from me at that point that like if I survived that elimination, I would have been like, they are writing me into this final because there's no reason why people would want to keep me around now. And like, I just had a tough day and my producers were like, listen, like, we know you're upset. Like, and we know you're tired. Like, we're not going to make you do anything you don't want to do. But I think like in Rachel's case, she came into the game late. She didn't get a lot of like opportunity to show people who she was because she came in later than day 1. And I think that's why they were like pressuring her to do more. If I had to guess, again, I don't know if that's true. But yeah, experiences differ from person to person. It is contingent on a lot of things like your mental health going into it. Have you lived on your own before? Which I have done. Like that helped because like lonely days living on your own are only made to be weirder when there's 12 cameras around. Like, you know what I mean? It's like the loneliness is amplified by, well, I have to do something. I can't just go to bed. Like it's, it's crazy. But yeah, it's a person to person situation. I still to this day, like even if people have had bad experiences on the show, I will always say that the welfare team on that show, like Beth, Laura, everybody who's involved in like doing like the welfare of the players that go on this show care a lot. Like they do like make sure you're okay. Like they will come to your room and be like, do you need to talk? Like, do you want to get fresh air? Like things like that. And like that went like a mile. And like the floor producers, there were 3. And one of them, I'm rambling. I'm so sorry if this is super long. But one of them there was Femi, Jazzy, and one, I can't think of the third girl's name. Doesn't matter. But Femi and Jazzy, Jazzy was cool because it was my first day on the show. I filmed. They were like, "Do you want to get fresh air?" I'm like, "Sure." So the floor producer has to go with you, and I'm with this woman. Her name is Jazzy, and we're just talking, chit chatting, and she's like, "Yeah, I always wanted to be in TV and do film." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. Did you go to college for that?" She's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, where'd you go to college?" She's like, "It's a small school. You probably don't know it. It's Quinnipiac University." And I was like, "No, I went to Quinnipiac University." So and she graduated when what would have been my freshman year of college. Never met her. Like, we never crossed paths on like LinkedIn, anything. And it just took us doing this crazy experience that like now we're just connected from, not only doing a TV show, but like we graduated from the same college together. It's so bizarre.
That is so weird. That's such a small world. So I have another question. You mentioned like you can't just go to sleep. So are you guys allowed to nap? Like, I know that ideally everything should be entertaining. So I'm sure that they would much prefer you to be cooking or doing something filmable. But like, could you guys just take a 5-hour nap?
Oh, I mean, definitely not 5 hours. In my experience, I don't know because I never nap. Like, it's just like not a thing I do. So I never even thought about doing it. I would actually relish to ask somebody else from my season if they got to nap ever during filming, just because like you never know when like an alert's gonna hit the screen, and the producers don't seem to know either. Like, it seems like so much is going on the back end just to make sure like when it happens smoothly, that they don't know like exactly what time things are gonna happen. So you just like kind of wing it.
And it's so interesting too, like as you described that speaker going back for a second, it reminds me of Oz. Like I would feel like I literally have Oz in my apartment, just the all seeing eye watching me. And does that ever like trip you out a little? Like sometimes I talk to myself, sometimes I sing to myself. Like I can't even imagine if I didn't have the ability to like smoke weed for 3 weeks, like what my personality would be like, just because I'm so much more hyper. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
no,
like,
I do think about that a lot. Like what my like kind of what my day to day looked like from the outside looking in. But I always like describe it as like you're like it's almost more like 2001 Wizard of Oz. Like Oz is a perfect example of it. But I always talk about it like it's Hal from like 2001: A Space Odyssey, where like there's just a camera and you're looking at a camera but you're talking to a person. So like somebody's talking to you, but you only see like this thing. Like it's just there. So you're like, oh man, I don't even know how to go about talking to you because this just feels weird to me. And they watch everything that you do. So like everything that's going on, like they are right there, just seeing it happen in real time. So yeah, it is a weird, like a really, really weird experience, but you get used to it after a while. Like I've started to get so comfortable with it. And other people might not, but like I did.
it almost sets you up for the ability to just like have your own reality show. Like you feel like a little bit like Michael Scott. Like, okay, now I can just have a camera on me all the time. I don't care.
Well, yeah, like I actually started. So I would do this thing where like I would accidentally look into a camera when I was saying something, and they were like, "We can't use that if you look into the cameras." So like, because they wanted to be like so real, like feel like reality. So like, I just stopped. So anytime I took that and used it to my advantage. Anytime they were like asking me to think about what I was going to say, I would just look for any of the cameras in the room that were looking at me, and I would look right at it when I was just like, okay, I don't know exactly what I'm going to say. I don't want to say anything stupid, and I don't want anybody to catch what I say being stupid on any camera. So like, I would just like look at one camera and start formulating my thoughts. My producer would be like, "Stop doing that! Like, you can't. Why are you doing that?" I'm like, because I want to make sure whatever I say is like actually a formulated thought and not like half baked. You know what I mean?
That would be what I would sound like. It would be like half baked. Like my compilation at the end would be like me saying the most strange things. I can already see that for myself that would unfold. What about your laundry? Like niche question. What did you guys do about clothes?
You bring a bunch, but they will do your laundry for you. Like they have like a laundry service. So like you're like, "Hey, I just need somebody to come do my laundry." You put it all in a basket. They take it. They wash it, dry it, fold it, bring it back. I had a weird one happen though, because like when my laundry came back, a few of my clothes were missing the first time they did it. And then I got a pair of socks that were definitely not mine. And like they were like just very clearly like a pair of women's socks. Like they were super small. They had like a design on them. And in my head, I'm like, I mean, this doesn't give me much information, but it allows me to know that there's at least a girl in the game. Like I know that there's a girl here, but like I didn't tell anybody because I was like, if I don't know if I say I got somebody else's socks, like they'll be like, you have to leave the game. So like I just hid them in my bag and like left it because I didn't want to get in trouble. And they were like, I was like, oh, and also like a few of my clothes are missing. They were like, oh, we'll just go. They're probably just like at the service still, and we'll go get them. So there's a chance that somebody also got my clothes, and like I have no idea.
Literally, someone's probably sitting there with your boxers or something. Like, what the fuck? Like, there's a guy here. You know, like
there was like there was a
a
very specific pair of shorts that like I was missing, and I remember just thinking, if somebody has these shorts, there is no no dude in the game that was there at that point would have those shorts because like they're a men's size medium and like they're short, like they're very short shorts. And I was like, Brew is too tall and like, and Frank's just like a bigger dude. So, and we were the only guys in the game at this point. And all I could think was, if somebody has those shorts, they know somebody is in this game that is not who they say they are because it couldn't be anybody else. So I was like bugging out about it.
Watching the series back, I've been watching it like prepping for our episode, and I literally couldn't get over Parker playing Paul and like how egregiously noticeable it was that like she was a girl. And like I feel like seeing the socks even would like have my mind going like a million miles a minute. Like if that was early in the game, I'd be like, oh, this is fucking Paul. Like this is just confirming the fact that he is a catfish.
Yeah, like that whole day, like the Parker was gone by the end of the first day. Like, it was the beginning of the second day because it went into the next day. But that's how like the filming kind of works. But yeah, like we knew Paul wasn't Paul. Like we didn't know if it was a girl or not. We just knew it was definitely not him.
Paul.
And then Paul and I had a conversation where like Paul said, "Oh, I have 2 daughters," and I was like, that's it. And one of them is here because like every decision she made was just like, she reverted back on a different thing. Like she said, like she never missed a day of work.
Yes.
Yeah. Like she had never had a sick day, but like she's taken a nude and like, or like, like she's never taken a nude, but like she had skipped work before. It was like so many things like didn't add up. And I remember being like, well,
it was the cake for me. Like as soon as she baked that cake, like I was already like, they can tell because she's like, no, I've never missed work, but yes, I send nudes, and no, I don't know what the word. She didn't know what like biography was.
Memoir, yeah, she didn't know memoirs. She didn't know memoirs. And I remember like, I do remember watching it back and being like, they cut out a lot of stuff from her, like that her going home, like that, like those 2 episodes because like. We must have all known because there were so many times I was like, I just said out loud, but I was like, Paul is not Paul. Like Paul's a catfish. Like I said, it was the first thing I said when I saw his profile, and that made it into the show. But I remember being like, that's fine because like for me, it was more about the numbers anyway. Like Paul wasn't a number for me because it was somebody at that point. I didn't know if it was a girl or not. Just a person playing a dad. And that would have ruined my alliance if I was like, all right, I'll try to play the parent angle with Paul. Because then it's like, oh, I only get this one person, whereas I could try to pretend to like buddy up with all the girls, and then I have like 4 or 5 girls in my corner. And like that's just kind of how the strategy has to work. Like you have to make hard decisions.
I feel like it's such a thing playing like Mama Carol or Auntie Jen to just rallying the troops of girls like under your wing. Like that is such a great tactic looking at it from like a viewer's perspective.
Yeah, that was like my first group chat I had like the first day when I could pick like who I was talking to. I was like, I want a group chat with all the girls. That's it. That's all I wanted. And it worked for the most part. But it's just like, it's hard to maintain that. Because after a while, like I said, you just don't know what's going on in other rooms and other people's heads, and like it's just you can't control a lot of it, you know.
Plus, when a guy tries too hard to embody that maternal, like, persona as another woman, like, you can tell. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the more you do, like, the more you can expose yourself. So it's almost like you have to have a healthy relationship between, like, playing the role and, like, trying to get everyone on your side, like, woman to woman, and, like, also just, like, not giving yourself away.
Yeah, exactly.
So where do you guys go once you're eliminated? Is it just back to the apartment? Do they send you to like a Motel 6? Like what happens?
So so I got eliminated late at night. So I slept that night in my circle apartment. And then that next day you go into like, you were in, leading up to the show that week before, you're in what's called a hiding apartment. So like an apartment that's just in Manchester somewhere that like you're there with a chaperone and you live together until you go in and out of the show. And then when I got out, that you just stay there until the finale happens and then you come home.
So I've been wondering this. Like when I watched the show, I kept saying like, this is either Chicago or UK. Like, so it was in England then, correct?
Yeah, it's in Manchester. We filmed the whole thing in Manchester.
And when it was fine.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really get to explore. Like, you just go to Manchester and come home. Like, you don't see anything.
I have two questions, so don't let me forget. First of all, how do you guys get there? Like, because obviously they have like, 10, 12 people coming, but they don't want you guys to see each other. So is it on separate flights? Like, do they coordinate that for you?
They coordinate all the travel. So I can only assume that they just make sure that you're never gonna like be seen like the entire time that you're there. Like you just have to make sure that it like we never cross paths. So I can only assume that that's exactly what they do.
How funny would it be if like you go to the like end where you meet everybody and you're like, she was literally on my plane. Like that's so fucking weird. That would be such a like head spin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure like that's the thing that the one thing they do have is that if you like put people on the same flight, there's a chance like they could see them and never like there's a chance I could have been on the same flight as anybody. I just wouldn't remember them. Like, unless they were super distinct. Like, if I was on the same flight as Brew, I knew who Brew was before the show. So, like, if I saw him, I'd be like, oh my God, you're Brew on the radio. And then, like,
or spoiler alert, Lissa, maybe. Like, I feel like she would have stuck out to you. Like, because you guys are dating now. Like, I feel like her face may have, like, clicked.
Maybe. I really don't know. Because, like, you're on a plane to England. So, it's, like, a large plane with a bunch of people. So, like, you never know and you're exhausted because it's traveling. Like you're not thinking like you're going on like the Matchmaker airplane right now. So like you never know what you're going to notice. But yeah, I mean, I could have hypothetically been on the plane with everybody and just never even seen them.
And that's the difference between a guy's perspective and a girl's, because you get on the plane as a girl and you are the main character. Everybody is looking at you. Everybody is an option. Like you have like romantic tension with every person who looks at you and you just like stare at everyone. Like that's the experience of being a girl and getting on a plane. Like you just want to like people watch. And like I said, you feel like the main character.
Yeah, no, I've never gone through that exact experience whatsoever. I've just been like, get me on the plane and let me get to wherever I'm going. And that's all I want.
Were you guys allowed to drink alcohol while you were there?
Like, sorta. Like, it's none of it is like it. Like, if we got it, it was usually champagne. But like the champagne was like sometimes actually champagne, sometimes sparkling cider. Like, it just depends because like they can't really have you get too hammered because so much of it is you like talking and like having to be like on your toes and coherent. So like that, not really. Like we're never really drinking all that much.
And as far as the outside of the apartment, so it's somewhere in Manchester, they show it to us and it looks seemingly normal. But as you've mentioned, it's almost like a casino, like where you're desensitized as far as time goes. So did they board up your windows or what do they do so that you don't know the time?
They're sort of like screens that are grayed out. So like they don't block off like you from seeing the outside. What they do is like, I don't know if it's like some sort of the technology of these things that they have built into them, but you can't see like the color of the sky really. Like it's just like it's dim. So like it all kind of just feeds the same color, and that's it. And like they adjust the lighting in the room like as it happens, and that's what makes it like feel like it's always daytime.
Are there consequences that they tell you guys of when you go in the house, like, or when you go in your apartment for, like, if you break a rule? Like, are there rules? Like, don't leave your apartment and try to go up to a different floor, or you can't
Oh
swear in
yeah,
the
I mean,
chats?
oh you could say whatever you want. It's Netflix. Like they're not worried about that. But if you like just literally take a step out of your door without somebody else like a floor producer taking you out of there, you will not you're eliminated. Like you're done. They will take you out of the entire show. Like why would you do that?
And
Because
how do
like
you think they'd write it in? Like, would they just be like, this guy fucking left, or what?
they probably like just would try their best to never allow you to be in the show whatsoever. Like if they can control that enough. But they tell you right away like if you leave your room and it's not by like the accord of somebody else, like you won't be allowed back. Like you're done.
Wow, I was wondering about that. So I'm glad that we addressed that. What about chats? Like, are you guys just open chat all day and only the big chats are shown, or do they keep you guys pretty socially disconnected?
So every day starts with a circle chat, and then from there, your producer asks, "Who do you want to talk to today?" So you give them a list of three. So number one is like, I want to talk to this one the most. The second one is like, if I can't get number one, I want number two, and number three is like the last ditch option of the day. Day one, the first person I wanted to talk to, like the first thing, like I said, was a girls chat. Put it together, done. Then day two, after Frank and I became influencers, this was frustrating. I every day asked to speak to Frank, and they never let me speak one on one to Frank, and I was so like butthurt about it. And then after like the show, I asked Frank, I was like, "Hey, did you ever ask to speak to me? Like, you could be honest. If you say no, it's fine. Like, I'm just trying to make heads or tails." He was like, "No, did you ever?" He was like, "I asked to speak to you like every day. Why?" And I was like, "I asked to speak to you like every day." I think they knew once we were both influencers that like if we both just kept DMing each other, we would have run the game like the whole time. Like we would have run the game all day. And like that's the type of stuff like the producers can manipulate. But we do talk a ton throughout the day. Like you usually get a circle chat, whatever the alert is, like whatever that game is for the day, and then you end it with like maybe one or two more conversations. But those are more than likely going to be like one-on-one. So like I used to talk to Brew all the time, and there's like time where like on like a lot of downtime where they like you just want human interaction, like you could just like ask if like, "Hey, would Brew want to talk right now?" And like we didn't really do that much because like when you get the downtime, you want the downtime. Like you don't want to really be even if the conversation's never meant to make it to the show, like we just want to be doing nothing.
What could you guys do for downtime? I know a lot of people are wondering, like, I'm sure you can't bring phones, but like, can you bring books from home, or can you bring something?
Yeah, you can't bring phones, anything technologically based. You can bring books, and you have to give them to the archive department, and they'll like tape them up so you can't see what books you're reading. So I brought a book. I didn't read it. And then yeah, no, I didn't even touch it. And I brought my guitar, and those were like my two things that I brought. And then they give you some stuff. Like for me, they gave me like a marble maze game and a slinky. But like Brew got a mini basketball hoop, and I really wish I got one of those. Like there's just like different little things that they'll give you, but there's not much because you really are filming a lot of the time.
What about the music? Like, when we see you guys have a dance party, are you guys hearing anything, or do they just tell you like dance to like fast music?
No, there's music. They can pump music into the apartments. So like
Okay.
they'll play the music out loud, but like the alerts don't actually make a sound, but the music does.
And do they have to tell, like, the alert thing blew my mind. Like I already saw your TikTok, and I was so sad to hear that the alert sound's not real, just because everybody's so fucking convincing with their expression when it's like, supposedly surprising you guys. Do the producers just say to you, like, look surprised, or do they ever just like leave it on the screen to see?
My producers would just say, like, something might happen soon, and then like sometimes your head's just like down doing something, and they're like, look up, and like you look up and the screen says alert, and you gotta be like, oh, alert, like, you just kind of like fake it. But yeah, like after a while, if you really pay attention, I know you said you're rewatching our season right now, but if you pay attention to like my episodes again, like after like the third episode, anytime there's an alert, you're probably not going to see me on screen, because like I was so bad at faking the alerts. Like I was like the first couple of days, like you're really into it, so you're like, alert, oh my god, and then like by like day 3, I was like, alert, like, and I love the show, like I love being on the show. That was like the one thing I could not fake at all. Like I didn't really fake anything, but that thing especially, like it just like I can't act like that for some reason.
Were you disappointed? So you're watching the show, then you go on. Were you of the impression that the chats were voice activated and the alert sound was real as well before you got there, or did you already have the basic sense like this is probably faked?
Yeah, I had no idea the alerts didn't make a sound. I didn't know that before getting there. The actual like platform, like the circle itself, I kind of figured that there was no way that was like actual talk to text and like AI generated, because if that's the case, then like we should all have the circle in our given everyday lives, because that should just be on our television at all times, because that would be the easiest communication method of all time. Like you say whatever you want all the time, and it just starts writing a message.
Did you watch Kimmy, the movie Kimmy? Because it reminded me of that.
Is that, you mean like the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, like that one? Or no, I've never seen the movie Kimmy.
Okay, my bad. It's with Zoe Kravitz, but it's called Kimmy, and there's literally like a thing just like Siri, just like the circle pretty much, but you're just like, Stella, lights on, and she just like does everything for you. And yeah, when I saw the circles technology, I was like, what the fuck are we missing out on as just regular Americans?
Yeah, that threw me for a loop, because I was like hoping that could be real, but no chance.
So what was the hangout room like? Did you, and like, my apologies if I don't remember, because I don't know if you went in there, if you got a chance to see it, but did you get to go in the hangout room? And if so, like, where was it?
What do you mean by the hangout room? Do you mean like the like when we're influencers and we do like the influencer chat? Or
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I if that's what it's called, I just don't remember. Yeah, I was in it the first episode, so that was crazy. I got up there, and it was Frank and I making a decision of who to eliminate, and I remember just being there, and like, it took so long. I had to pee so bad. And like I was trying to take in like the entire situation, but I was like, guys, I really have to use the bathroom. They're like, you can't leave. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like I was like so pissed off. But it was bizarre, because it's like on TV they make it look like this really small room, but it's just like another full-sized apartment building that they just make it seem like is really tiny. But it was pretty cool.
It literally looks like a closet. You're so right.
Yeah.
Like, they make it look so intimate and small. It's almost like watching it. How do you guys not hear each other? Like, it looks like it's like that.
I would almost guarantee you that we're not actually like this, like sandwiched like that, like TV to TV. Because if we were, that would be so stupid. Like I have to imagine one is on one floor and one is on a completely different floor, because we're only talking to each other over the TV.
Oh, that's another like TV magic thing that I would have loved to just not know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad I know, obviously, because I want the tea and I like to know like what goes into the production. But that makes so much more sense. Obviously, you guys aren't going to be in the same room. Like, then you would hear the voice somehow, or there's just a risk of someone having to pee like you and seeing someone else.
Yeah, and like you're not, when you're speaking, like you're not just talking over the circle like platform. That might be the only parts that make it into the show, but like you're talking to your producer, like your producer's talking to you. Like there's no chance that they would risk any of that possibly going wrong.
True. What about the fact that your season's the only one that's had like an actual celebrity on it? Because you guys had the Spice Girls on your season. Like, did you guys even meet them, or was that like Was it like kind of like you guys as contestants didn't even really know the difference because you've never seen them?
Well, Alyssa actually did get to meet them, but she was the only one. We thought they might come to like press day or something, but they weren't. They were probably doing something way cooler. But I mean, that was crazy. I don't even know how that got swung, but yeah, that's like, I'm not sure why or how or who made that decision. But I'm glad it happened because I think that's why, like, that's not why, but it's another reason why our season has gone down as being like one of the more well-liked ones of all time.
It was such a cool plot twist, like to just have them on there. That's so cool that Alyssa got to meet them. That's like such a humble brag, the way you said that so nonchalantly. I'm so happy for her. That's sick.
They were like, apparently, I don't know the story. I'm not going to get it exactly right, so don't quote me. But if I remember correctly, like they came into her room one time and they said, like Mel B said she didn't like Alyssa. And the producers made her leave and like do it again because they were like, you cannot lead with that. She was like, I just didn't like the way you were playing the game. And Alyssa was like, hold on, what's happening here? I think that's exactly how the story goes. Don't quote me on it. Yeah. I'd have to ask her again, but like I'm almost positive that's what happened.
So now I need Alyssa to come on here and tell me about the time that the Spice Girls said that they don't like her. You know what I mean? That's so funny. Exactly. And I'm not going to quote you. It's just like being satirical, but that's so fucking funny. I would be like, can we redo that? I never want anybody to know that the Spice Girls didn't like me.
Yeah, and like she didn't even get to make that decision. Like they just said, like, we're not going to let that happen. Absolutely not.
Good. Let's talk a little bit about your stand-up because I feel like I've asked pretty much every question that I wanted to about the circle. So I want to talk about, where you do stand-up, where people can find like links to your stand-up and whatever you want to share.
Sure. Yeah. So I do stand-up in New York City a bunch. Just whenever I can get up, I get up. I have a big show coming up on March 24th. I don't know if this is going to be out before then or not. It doesn't matter. But March 24th, I got a big show in the city at the Comic Strip. And then any place I could really get up, I like to get up. I just put out my first special, which is on YouTube. It's at my link in every bio everywhere. And if you just go to like my TikTok and Instagram, like you'll just see the reels. Like they're there all the time. So I'm trying to do it more. I would like to do it a lot more. Trying to figure that out as we speak. But I've been doing stand-up now for 3 years and change. So it's been really cool. It's been a great experience, and I'm thankful to be like doing it as a part of my life. And I'm just glad like the show has given me such a great opportunity to do it. I'm actually planning on coming out with a podcast the next couple of weeks with my roommate Chris, and I are putting out a podcast called On a Related Note. So look out for that. That'll be coming out in the end of March. And we're doing that in conjunction with 4x3 Comedy, who helped me put out my comedy special. And that's kind of like what I'm working on right now.
Hell yeah. That's so exciting. I can't wait for your podcast. This will definitely be out before your show in New York City. So where do we get tickets? And like, can you give us a ballpark of how much they are, like per ticket?
Yeah, sure. Tickets, I believe, for this show are $15.
Perfect.
I think. And it's at the Comic Strip Live, March 24th. You could go to Eventbrite, look it up, go to the Comic Strip website. It's there. Or go to mikemarino.net because he's the headliner on the show. So he's the one who will be putting that link like everywhere.
I'm so excited. Actually, like since I'm in Jersey, I would love to try to go to that. I'm going to check my schedule, see if I can like work that in. And I'd love to come with my friends and check that out.
Hell yeah, you absolutely should.
Cool. So thank you so much for making time. Now, you already said your handle, but just one more time, like how do people find you on Instagram, just in case they want to follow up post-episode?
Sure, yeah. Thank you so much for having me, first of all. This has been great. Love to always talk about any of the ins and outs of the show and anything I could do to like give some insight. So thank you so much. And if you're looking for me on Instagram, it's @_JohnFranklin_. I'm never going to be the first one. And then if you go to TikTok, it's @JohnFranklinComedy, YouTube, John Franklin, Facebook, if you're on there, John Franklin. So anywhere you can find a John Franklin, you probably find me.
It was so good talking with you. I feel super like lucky that you were able to share all of the inside secrets with me. And since you're so close, like I said, I want to come to your shows, and I would love to have on Alyssa too and talk to her someday potentially.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Let's try to get Alyssa on the show at some point. Definitely anytime you want to come out to a comedy show, let me know.
Love it.
Always happy to have people around.
And best of luck with your podcast. I'll be looking out for it too. And once it's out, I'll plug it on my like stories.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to this episode, and happy Monday.
All
Sorry.
right.
My